Hello again, everyone. Today we're going to tackle removing some epoxy grout haze from our tile in our Tiffin Allegro RED. A month or so ago we had some tile repair done, and after we picked up the coach and were on the way back home, we realized that there was a pretty good haze left on the tile, some handprints, some boot prints, that kind of stuff. After speaking with several people, we figured out that it was haze left over from the epoxy grout. There were several suggestions made to us on how to remove it, and we tried some of those. I'll share those with you here in a minute. But today we're going to try a little bit different tactic. But first, let's take a look at what we're talking about on the floor. All right, so here we have our floor in our Tiffin Allegro RED. This is a clean floor, believe it or not. This floor has been mopped several times and looks fairly decent when it's wet, but as soon as it's dry, this haze kind of comes back. You can even see a few places where there are some handprints, some boot prints. There's several of the mysterious handprints that we really don't want to be on our coach floor. We're not trying to build this as a haunted coach, so we probably don't need mysterious handprints showing up all the time. So we're going to tackle, well, first we're going to talk about some of the ways we tried to clean this that didn't work, and the new way that we're going to do that does seem to take care of it. So after speaking with the folks at Tiffin and some other online research that we did, it looked like removal of the epoxy grout haze could be done several different ways. People seem to have success with several different things. The alcohol, one thing, it was suggested to us that we get the 90% alcohol, but surprisingly, during a pandemic, that's a little difficult to come by, so we weren't able to get that. This is what we had. Needless to say, that didn't really do any good. We put that on, let it soak for a minute, scrubbed, and that didn't really do us any good. So then we moved on to the next suggestion, which was vinegar. Same here. We put it on the floor, let it sit for a few minutes, and scrubbed it, wiped it back off, and nothing really, no visible change at all. Then we purchased this epoxy grout film remover, which sounds like that would be just the thing. Well, after using it, finding out it really didn't help us, we realized that this is meant for grout haze that's very new, that's maybe been done like in the last day or so, and that would probably work to take it off. So since ours has been done a little longer, this is not really going to work for us. So neither of these three products worked for us. So we came up with another idea, and we'll look at that next. So after doing a little online research, we found that several people were having luck sanding this haze off their tile. So that's what we're going to do. We got our Bosch Orbital sander, we got some sanding discs. This is a variety pack of wet dry sanding discs, and it's 2000 down to 800 grit. We've actually had the best luck so far with the 800 grit. Works fast, doesn't damage the tile, and makes pretty quick work of what we're trying to do. So about the only other things you need for this project: spray bottle of water if you want to sand wet. This will work wet or dry. The sanding wet just gives you a little more confidence that you're not going to damage something. It makes it a little less nerve-wracking for me anyway. Some knee pads, because you're going to be kneeling a lot, and we recommend a mask and safety glasses anytime you're sanding or cutting or doing that kind of stuff. and a few rags. Guys, word to the wise, don't use your wife's good bath towels for this. That's all I'm going to say. All right, so for illustration purposes, we're going to work on this one tile that has a pretty good handprint on it, so we'll be able to see, get a real good idea of how this works. So we've got our epoxy grout film remover and just a little sponge. Pretty much all I'm doing is just letting a little bit of this drip on the floor. Trying to do this with one gloved hand so that I can work the camera if I need to. All right, so I just take this and just coat the tile. I'm doing one at a time just because that makes it a little easier to know what's been done, what hasn't. So I'll just wet the whole tile really well. And then it says 15 to 30 minutes to let it sit. So we'll do that. We'll come back, and during that 15 to 30 minutes, it says if you agitate it some, so we can either scrub it with a sponge, or if this is a really bad one, we'll come back with our sander and go over it a couple times during that time and give it a better chance to clean up really well. So we will let this sit for a minute. We'll be back and see what it did. All right, so we've let this sit for about 10 minutes or so. And since this was a really bad spot with the big handprint, we're gonna give it a little go with our sander. This again is the 800 grit wet dry sandpaper. And we're just gonna give it just a light going over, not anything very harsh or a whole lot of pressure. Just okay, so we're gonna just wet this down with just a little mist of just plain water and get our towel to wipe it down. And that's looking pretty good. When it's completely dry, we'll have a little bit better idea. But I think as far as I can tell, our handprint is pretty much gone. Still could maybe do one more going over with just the liquid and wiping it down, but I think pretty much now we've got it. So we're back, and this is our finished tile. And if you look back, see if I can pan back and get a little bit of glare on it so you can see the difference. If you look at some of the other tiles in the other part of the room, you can see kind of that glossy haze on those. And if you come back to this one, you can see that that's pretty much gone, and our handprint is pretty much, I mean, if you knew where it was, you might be able to see, but I would say that this is a success. All right, that's it for today, guys. Glad you joined us. If you have any questions about any of the tools or any of the supplies that we used in this video, definitely reach out. We're always glad to answer questions and help where we can. We're definitely not pros at this. We're just learning from experience, just as you guys are. And so we're always glad to take feedback. If you have any ideas or anything that you'd like to add to this video, we'd definitely love to hear that too. So, and speaking of reaching out, make sure you go follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Always fun stuff going on there that might or might not be in these videos, so you don't want to miss anything. I guess that's it for now, so happy trails, stay safe, and we will see you next time.